Most leaders think they're making smart decisions, but what if I told you they're actually flying blind? Think about it. Massive business failures like Kodak, Nokia, and Blockbuster weren't caused by bad products. They were caused by bad decisions. Decisions made without recognizing the early warning signs of change, because the signals were there. The companies just didn't use them to make better choices. So the big question is, how can you make smarter decisions for the future, but make them right now? Most people think smart decisions come from experience, intuition, or even luck. But that's not enough. Experience can be outdated, intuition can be biased, and luck, well, that's just gambling with your future. The real edge comes from seeing the signals of change before they become disruptions. It's about anticipating shifts, not reacting to them. In this video, I'll show you how you can use horizon scanning to make smarter decisions before it's too late. How you can integrate horizon scanning into your decision-making process without adding complexity. And I'm going to tell you one simple thing that you can do today to start making smarter decisions using horizon scanning. But first, let's talk about why most people make avoidable mistakes when making decisions. Because the truth is, our brains are not wired for long-term thinking. We fall into common mental traps that cloud our judgment. Take, for example, what happened between Blockbuster and Netflix, two companies in the entertainment space that couldn't have been more different in their approach to the future. In the early 2000s, Blockbuster was the king of home entertainment. They had over 9,000 stores, millions of customers, and a brand so strong that renting a movie felt like part of weekend culture. Then Netflix showed up, a small, mail-order DVD company that didn't even seem like real competition. But here's where things get interesting. Netflix wasn't just reacting to change. They were scanning the horizon for what was coming next. They saw the early signs. Internet speeds were getting faster, customers were getting frustrated with late fees, and streaming technology was improving. So instead of doubling down on DVD rentals, they pivoted to streaming before the market demanded it. Meanwhile, Blockbuster's CEO, John Antioco, wasn't worried. In fact, when the co-founder of Netflix, Reed Hastings, approached John Antioco in 2000 and offered to sell Netflix for $50 million, Antioco and his team laughed at the idea. To Blockbuster, Netflix seemed like a niche player, insignificant compared to their massive brick-and-mortar empire. But Netflix wasn't thinking about what worked now. They were scanning the horizon for what would work next. Quick question. If the future of your business arrived tomorrow, would you be ready? Most people think they are, until it's too late. I used to believe I had a handle on the future too, until the client asked me one question that completely floored me. What are we actually doing to stay future ready, beyond just reacting? That was the wake-up call. That's why I created the Future Readiness Scorecard, a quick, free assessment that shows you how prepared your team, your strategy, or even your mindset really is for what's coming next. In just 3 minutes, you'll get a personalized breakdown of your strengths and the blind spots that could cost you. No fluff, no jargon, just a crystal clear picture of how future fit you really are. Whether you're a founder, a team leader, or just someone trying to stay ahead in a fast-changing world, this tool is designed for you. And trust me, the results might surprise you. So, are you ready for the future? Take the Future Readiness Scorecard and find out. Link in the description below. It's free, fast, and you'll walk away with actionable insights you can use today. Reed Hastings later reflected on this moment by saying, "We were tiny by comparison. They had all the brand power, but we had a vision for the future of entertainment." Blockbuster, on the other hand, they ignored the signals. They assumed customers would always want physical stores. By the time they realized their mistake, it was too late. Years later, Antioco admitted that in hindsight, it's easy to say we should have taken them more seriously. But at the time, the numbers just didn't add up. Netflix made a smarter decision, not by guessing, but by scanning the horizon and acting before change forced their hand. And that's exactly what we're talking about today, how you can use horizon scanning to make better decisions, spot risks before they hit, and jump on opportunities before your competition. Blockbuster wasn't just ignoring the future, they were also falling into a classic decision-making trap. You see, Blockbuster was making billions from late fees, a huge part of their revenue model. Shifting to a subscription-based streaming service felt too risky because it meant losing that reliable income. Even though Netflix's model was the future, Blockbuster resisted because they didn't want to take a short-term financial hit. This is where loss aversion comes in. We tend to prefer avoiding losses rather than gaining something of equal value. The fear of losing $10 feels way worse than the joy of gaining 10. We hate losing money. That's why we'd rather keep a $5 gym membership for years than admit we've worked out exactly never. So when it comes to decision making, we often stick with what's familiar, even if it means missing out on bigger opportunities. But clinging to old revenue streams can blind you to the future. Sometimes losing a little now means winning big later. For Blockbuster, all their stores were full. Customers were renting movies and profits were rolling in. Their executives looked around and thought, people clearly love this model. It's working. But what they didn't see was the frustration bubbling under the surface. People hated late fees, and so did I. Customers wanted more convenience. Internet speeds were improving quietly in the background. And since these changes weren't as obvious as packed stores, Blockbuster underestimated them. This brings us to the availability heuristic, a cognitive bias where we tend to rely on immediate, easily available information when making decisions. When we see something everywhere, we assume it must be true. Just because all your friends watch reality TV doesn't mean it's peak entertainment. Okay, maybe just a little. In Blockbuster's case, they focused on what was right in front of them: busy stores, happy customers, and solid profits. But because they didn't consider less visible signals, like the growing frustration with late fees or the quiet advancements in technology, they missed out on the emerging shift in consumer behavior. The availability heuristic tricks us into thinking that what we can see is all that matters. And that's often when we make the worst decisions. The most visible data isn't always the most important. Weak signals matter. Blockbuster had spent decades building a brick-and-mortar empire. Their entire decision-making process was anchored to the belief that people would always want to go to a store to rent movies. So when Netflix offered to sell for $50 million, Blockbuster laughed, because they were still anchored to past success instead of future trends. This is a perfect example of anchoring bias, a cognitive bias where we rely too heavily on the first piece of information we encounter, the so-called anchor. In Blockbuster's case, that anchor was their successful physical rental model. By staying anchored to their old business model, they couldn't adapt to the changing market. They couldn't imagine a future without physical stores, even though the signs were clear that consumers were shifting towards more convenient digital alternatives. Anchoring bias can trap us in outdated ways of thinking, preventing us from seeing new opportunities. It's like driving straight towards a brick wall, because last year, the wall wasn't there yet. And in Blockbuster's case, it ultimately led to their downfall. Past business models aren't a guarantee of future success. Anchoring to old ways blinds you to transformation. Even when Netflix started gaining traction, Blockbuster found reasons to dismiss them. People love coming to stores, they said. DVD rentals are what customers want. Streaming will never replace physical media. Instead of analyzing why customers were switching, they cherry-picked data that reinforced their existing beliefs. If you only look for proof that you're right, you'll miss the signals telling you that you're wrong. This is confirmation bias at work, when we seek out information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs and ignore evidence that contradicts them. Blockbuster couldn't see the writing on the wall because they were too focused on the data that supported their traditional model, while disregarding the growing shift towards digital media and the growing consumer frustration with their service. Confirmation bias can blind us to reality, leading us to make decisions based on selective perception rather than the full picture. And that's exactly how Blockbuster missed the wave of change Netflix was riding. If you only look for proof that you're right, you'll miss the signals telling you that you're wrong. Netflix succeeded because they actively challenged their assumptions. They scanned the horizon, spotted weak signals, and adapted before change forced them to. Meanwhile, Blockbuster let biases cloud their judgment and paid the price. Which of these biases do you see in your industry? Leave a comment down below. Now, how can you avoid these biases? That's where horizon scanning comes in. Because here's what no one tells you. Horizon scanning isn't just about looking for weak signals. It's about making smarter decisions today. Decisions that keep you ahead of disruptions, spot opportunities before your competitors do, and help you avoid costly mistakes. So how does horizon scanning actually enhance decision making? Well, it helps you anticipate changes, reduce uncertainty, and shift from reacting to proactively shaping your future. Here's how. Horizon scanning helps counter biases like confirmation bias by exposing you to diverse viewpoints and alternative futures. It also prevents the availability heuristic, making decisions based on what's most recent or visible, by ensuring you consider long-term trends instead of just what's in front of you. With horizon scanning, you get a clearer context for decision-making, ensuring that your choices align with both long-term goals and external shifts. You can test your assumptions and even develop multiple scenarios to stress test your decisions, making sure you're prepared for anything. Early signals mean you can make adjustments quickly when the market or societal conditions change. Horizon scanning allows you to pivot faster, so you're not scrambling in crisis mode. It's about being prepared, not just reacting. By thinking beyond current trends, horizon scanning pushes you to explore new business models, technologies, or strategies. Those who scan effectively can spot and act on opportunities before anyone else, gaining a huge edge over competitors. In short, horizon scanning shifts decision-making from reactive to proactive. It empowers you to navigate uncertainty with confidence and to seize opportunities before they slip away. Now that you understand how horizon scanning can transform your decision-making, let's talk about one simple action you can take right now to get started. Something you can integrate into your daily routine to make smarter decisions immediately. It's as simple as keeping a signal log. And here's how it works. Pick a source, whether it's news, social media, reports, or expert blogs. Then scan for something unusual, a weak signal. Maybe it's a new trend, an emerging issue, or something surprising that could impact your industry or beyond. Write it down. Once you have your signal, take a moment to reflect. What could this signal mean in the future? How might it connect with other trends or shifts? By doing this daily or weekly, you'll build a habit of spotting change early. It's about integrating foresight into your everyday decisions, rather than waiting for disruption to hit you by surprise. And this leads directly to a bigger picture, integrating horizon scanning into quick decision-making. You can use horizon scanning as a structured filter for identifying relevant signals before making any choice. And you should focus on what matters. Identify the key areas you should be paying attention to, so your decisions have long-term impact. Share the responsibility. Get your team involved in scanning for signals so different people can help spot important trends and provide insights. Don't wait for perfection. Horizon scanning isn't about having all the answers. It's about making the best decision with the information you have right now. Learn and improve, keep track of the signals you spot, and review them regularly to get better at noticing important trends and acting on them faster. You know horizon scanning is important, but let's be real, you're busy. Meetings, deadlines, endless emails. Who has hours to track weak signals and emerging trends? The good news? You don't need hours. In this video here, I'll show you a 10-minute habit that keeps you ahead of disruptions without adding to your workload.